All right, guys, I got a special guest for you today. You guys know him as Buff the Stuff Bagwell from the WCW NWO days. It's a five-time former tag team heavyweight champions. He was in WCW, he was in WWE, he was in TNA. There is no other man that can call himself the stuff like Buff, right? So today we're going to talk to one of my childhood idols, and we're going to dig into all the accolades and accomplishment that Mr. Bagwell here has accomplished. So, Buff, how are you feeling to be here? What's going on, man?
Dude, I'm feeling great. A lot of good stuff to talk about. My pillow buddy hanging out with me here, my little new action figure, and just doing the sobriety thing, man. It's been a good thing and excited about it. And then just finally got a little bit of traction on social media right now with the DDPY video and then the Vice Dark Side of the Ring coming out.
And we're going to talk about all that stuff. So let's get into it, man. So first thing I want to talk to you about is...
Let's rock!
Fetch me their soul!
Obviously, everybody knows that, you were WCW, NWO. That's where I discovered you at. And then from there, did you go straight to WWE or was it TNA first?
When the big sellout went, I was WWF is who bought the WCW. And then when it went, when that collapsed on me, the first place I went was a place called World Wrestling All Stars. Do you remember that one?
No.
Everybody that was anybody: Sting, Sid Vicious, Steiners, Luger, Miss Elizabeth, Buff Bagwell, Road Dogg, Brian Christ. Name everybody that was anybody went to the WWA in Australia. World Wrestling All Stars.
Okay, so how did that work? Was that like a contract job that you guys took, or?
Contract job. The first tour was like 3 weeks or something. I can't quite remember what I made, but it was, like 20-something thousand for 3 weeks. It was, a good payday, of course. And, Brett the Hitman was there. Everybody Vince didn't have. This company was going to be the WCW. It was going to be, this promoter was named as Brian, I can't remember his first name. His last name was McManus. McManus was his last name. And I'm pretty sure that the Jarrett TNA thing in Australia is where that happened. Andrew McManus was his name. And him and Jeff, I remember that's where they met over there because Jarrett was there as well. And that's where TNA kind of stinted from, and I'll never forget my very first shot with TNA. I remember I was very excited, of course. I'm Buff Bagwell. I should be in the WWF/WWE, but I'm not. And now TNA is starting up, and I'm very excited. They put me on all the publicity stuff, TV interviews, all these things to really be the kind of the heavy hitter to help advertise for them. And it was in Huntsville, Alabama. And I get to the show, and there's a 20-man battle royal, and I was thrown out first. I'm like, what? I said, I go to Jeff. I go, Jeff, I don't care about being thrown out first. I go, my question is, why did y'all have me advertise for your company?
Right.
Why would you pick me to advertise for your company? And I'm the first person beat on TNA. Why? He goes, just some line of bullshit that we always hear from everybody. I'm not saying Jeff gave me bullshit. I'm saying that it just like they tell all the guys, it was some story for me to suck it up and go on, and I did, and just kept getting treated bad. They were trying to. I was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, of course, but so was half the roster. But
Right.
But still, it didn't help anything. But they wanted to change. They wanted to get rid of Buff and use Marcus Alexander Bagwell, and Ricky Steamboat was going to train me, and there was a lot of good stuff that was going on, but it just never came through. So I made my money just basically on the indies. I was really liked well in the indie world, and just I was really good at juggling and working hard, and I did so. So I made my next 20 years in the independent circuit.
Okay, so like someone at level of your talent, like a Bob Bagwell, and you were at the height of the game when wrestling was the hottest it's ever been. When you go to the indies, I mean, what are you average getting paid to do an indie show?
Well, my deal, I found out pretty quick was I went for less money, and I got booked a lot more. I think, if I really would have like buckled down and fully understood merchandise and selling your gimmicks and all that stuff, if I would have had somebody that really was really good, like who's the old timer, the Boogie Woogie Man?
Yeah.
Jimmy Valiant. If Jimmy Valiant would have took 15 minutes with me and explained how it worked, I could have got rich again. But I didn't really know. I remember being in a city 5 years into it, and I had one 8x10, and the girl, I got a line out the door, and a girl walks up and goes, she's looking, she goes, I've got 5 of those. I go, you got 5 of these pictures? And she goes, yeah. And I went, oh my God. So again, I didn't understand how it worked. So then I went back and got, 5 pictures with buttons, and then, koozies and hats and shirts. But I missed the beginning of it, where I could have probably got rich again. I just missed that loop. But I was getting paid between $2,000 and 500 if I was trying to make money. I just felt it out. And I know there's some guys that couldn't pay much more. Like there was Boaz, Alabama guy named Mickey Henry, and $750 to him was a ton of money. But it was every Friday night. So deals like that I would do, because I'd make a killing in merchandise. I made a killing. I brought a whole new meaning, brother, to the word Polaroid. Anybody that saw Buff Bagwell from 2005 to 2020, they saw him with a Polaroid camera. Okay. And I never saw, nobody stole it from me. Nobody thought to do it. Everybody wanted in on it. Like I'd go to a show, and like Scott Steiner and me, Scott would say, hey man, let's split the merchandise. And I said, well, okay, it's my camera, my film, but still. So he let me do the money, but it was such a crucial part, because this is when these phones didn't have cameras. Right. And when they first started getting the cameras, it's hard to tell a wrestling fan that you're going to charge them for a picture on their camera. You either, in that little transition of communication, you can lose the wrestling fan real fast, because they don't understand why you're charging them for a picture on their phone. So it's hard to explain to them that, look, I'm a superstar and you're not, and there's no way to explain it, So you try to. So what I did, I said, look, tell you what I'll do. I'll give you $20. You pay me $20. I'll give you a Polaroid and a free 8x10 and a picture on your phone. And $20 bills for the next 10 years got thrown at me, and I made a killing in it. And every show I did, I got the ring for the show. So at intermission, I had another little deal I did where they didn't announce intermission, because when you announce intermission, everybody goes off to do whatever, smoke a joint, use the bathroom, eat a hot dog. We tricked them that my music would play like I'm coming out to wrestle. And when I get to the ring, I would say, hey, at this time, I'm going to be in the ring. And it was just part of the show. We made intermission. We made intermission my photo session, and people lined up to get a picture in the ring with Buff Bagwell.
That's crazy. So speaking back on the whole charging for photographs, like I told you briefly before we scheduled this, I actually met you at a convention in Charlotte, and this was probably, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. You were there actually with Kevin Nash in Charlotte.
Right.
So again, I remember going to that same convention, its first one a few years back, and you're talking about the whole charging for photo thing. What was happening was a lot of fans would get up to the table and they wouldn't buy anything. They just wanted the free photo.
Right.
So what people don't understand is talent like yourself, and I go through this too, man, like being on TV, you're traveling. A lot of times you're paying your own expenses to be out at these conventions, unless you're like a really big star, like the key attraction. They don't even pay your plane tickets or whatever else. So a lot of people don't understand that you've got money invested in printing all those 8x10s and the t-shirts, and if you got an assistant and all that stuff. So it was people taking advantage of it, I think. And you're right, though. I see people look at me sometimes, like if I'm out in public, I don't charge anything. You catch me out on the street, but if I'm making an appearance with a amount of time, then yeah, that's a job. So, you know, everybody watching, you know, you should understand that, like Buff or anyone else is taking his time to come out there and meet you. So obviously you should be able to charge whatever you want. Now it's always a package deal at the conventions where everybody maybe got that from you. You may have been one of the trendsetters that started that, but like they do, you know, an autograph or a picture if you buy both, and you get a little bit
the combo.
Yeah, exactly. But now they're doing these fucking photo ops where you can't take a photo. Like, let's say you're signing. I can't take a photo with you at your table. You're only going to do a professional photo op between the hours of such and such and such and such, and they jack the prices up. And unfortunately, a lot of people go to these conventions, man, they don't have $1,000 or $2,000. You got your big guys that go out that obviously spend that. But a lot of people, man, I mean, you know, they're there just to meet one or two people, get one or two photos. So I kind of hate that it's moving to that model. Because unfortunately, I think a lot of people are having to pick between like 5 people they really want to meet and just buy that $100, $200, or $300, you know, professional photo op. But I actually did. They got a 3D scan booth now that Flair had in Nashville at his last match, where you go in, it's like $500, and they make you and him into a figurine. So I mean, they're coming up with all kinds of shit.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I can actually show it to you. So this is what you get for $500.
That is super cool.
Yeah. And well, it was super cool. It wasn't the best experience. Flair was having a bit of a day, but I met him. I mean, I was born in Charlotte, so obviously the Four Horsemen and Ric Flair, like I grew up, you know, fucking Crockett's TV studio was literally like 5 minutes down the street from where I live now.
Right.
So I grew up around wrestling. Ricky Steamboat had a gym right down the street from my house. Ric Flair had a gym. I actually went to college with one of Ric Flair's kids.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I've been around, you know, for a while. But the reason I reached out to you is because I've met a lot of wrestlers, and actually you and Jake the Snake, I always say, were the 2 nicest wrestlers I ever met in person. I've met a bunch, so that's saying something, you know. And I met Benoit, Dean Malenko, Arn Anderson, Nash. The only person I never got to meet that was on my list was Scott Hall, unfortunately.
Wow.
In fact, I was going to ask you, did you know Scott Hall well at all? Or?
Very well. You know, Scott.
You people. What's with him? You know who I am.
No way out of this. Here comes the Razor's Edge. I never thought I would.
And me and Scott didn't really like each other too much, but I worshiped Scott Hall. He was great. He was Razor Ramon, brother. You know, I mean, it was incredible. But he was big friends with Kevin, but you don't know how big of friends me and Kevin were. Me and Kevin were super tight as well. And he didn't like that. He didn't like that, you know, that somebody knew Kevin pretty tight too. And so it rubbed feathers. It rubbed his feathers a little bit a bad way, but we still got along good because of Kev. But Scott was just him and Kevin were real close, and he didn't like nobody kind of intruding on that. But Scott was cool.
So let me ask you, I mean, I think that you and Scott honestly are the two wrestlers I would pick if someone ever asked me the question, who's a wrestler that should have been world champion that never got there? For you, don't you think you should have been world champion?
Absolutely, I do. But when I look back on it, this is what makes me not be upset about that. I was a 5-time world tag team champion
Right.
in 10 years. So that means every other year I had a belt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm more upset about that I wasn't in the running for the world championship. If I could have been in the running for it, but been carrying maybe the TV title and the tag title, or the Intercontinental and the tag, or the US and the tag, I think I needed to be in the running for something else, and that kind of upsets me. But I was never even mentioned to the world belt, and that does upset me.
Well, so okay, so like I hate doing these parts of the interviews because obviously, man, I reach out to people that I'm a fan of, but here's the way an outsider looks at it. I'm not nearly as educated. Like, I'm not a Jim Cornette about the history of fucking wrestling. Like, I don't go back to the 70s and 60s. I go back from the time that I enjoyed it the most, which was, late 90s, early 2000s, NWO, Attitude Era. You had the three main things that makes wrestlers blow up, which is good mic skills, a good look, and you could wrestle, and that's rare. If you go back and look, I mean, like, for example, Bret Hart, phenomenal in the ring. I didn't think he was the best on the mic. Even
Right.
Hogan, great on the mic, great body, but wasn't the best with moves. But you had it all. What do you think was it that held you back? Do you think that you had a bad attitude back then, or you rubbed people the wrong way?
Dude, I'll be totally honest with you. I really, back in the day, anybody that really knows me, I survived 5 bosses, brother. Obviously, I had to do something right with my attitude. At the end, I can kind of see where people said it, but really, to be totally honest with you, bro, it just comes with the territory. When you are all the things you just said a person is, that comes with some heat.
Right.
And it's nothing. I'm very used to that, because when you're a good looking guy growing up, it ain't like people love you. They're a little bit pissed off about it,
Right.
All of a sudden I'm a good looking kid. And then they meet me and are like, wow, that kid, he's also cool. And then they're like, wait a minute, he can play ball also? You know what? I think I hate that kid's guts. It was heat, brother. I mean, my parents owned a lumber company that made $1 million plus a month. And the coach of the baseball team asked my parents if they would donate the part of the bench you sit on and the part of the bench that you put your back up against. About 6 pieces of wood is what they asked for. And because my parents donated that, that's why I was starting in baseball. It wasn't I was batting 750 with 10 home runs. That had nothing to do with it. It was my parents gave lumber to the coach. And that just comes with the territory. Now, fast forward 10, 15 years, you're at WCW, you look great, you wrestle damn good, and you can talk damn good. That comes with some heat. Now, if you have the wrong mouth with that, then you got a bad attitude. So I really believe my whole career, I had a really good mouth, because I had a very good teacher named Missy Hyatt that got me ready for that. But I think as you get more comfortable in a situation and you do see that you're kind of getting screwed over, your mouth may overload your ass a little bit. And I think it probably did a couple of times, but I would always try to correct it and say, I'm sorry, and apologize. And I mean, I remember one distinctive story one time was I caught a production person in a lie. And if I wouldn't have caught him in this lie, I could have possibly got fired for it. It was a thing where the door didn't open at this nitro we were on. And somehow or another, it got back that it was my fault. But I caught the guy by pure accident. I'm getting cussed out by Eric Bischoff, and we're main event that night in the city. And then I finally figured out what's going on. I said, wait a second, Eric. I bring the guy in there, and we catch him in the lie. How many of those conversations did I not catch?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just life. It's all how you handle it. It's balance. It's all the things. But when you survive 5 bosses in 10 years, I think you did a pretty good job.
So yeah, I was gonna say I would have. I mean, I was actually, let's go ahead and plug like your Vice inside with Dark Side of the Ring just
Yeah.
premiered a few weeks ago. I'm not gonna cover it, but you mentioned Missy Elliott, guys. If you're interested in that story, the show is really good. In fact, it's one of my favorite Dark Side of the Ring thing. It's season 5, episode 3 or 4, I think.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So you can check that out. I bought it on Amazon for a couple of bucks just to watch the episode, guys. But,
they did a hell of a job on that thing, man.
they did. And I felt like they were fair, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes, like, you know, I feel like they try to make things, which all TV does. They try to make things like a little bit more dramatic than it really is. But I feel like they did you a good job where they didn't try to slander you and make you look like a bad person.
And they could have, with those stories, and I mean, it's a hell of a story, but they could have put a little something on it and made that a very negative thing. That perfectly, and they did a hell of a job reenacting the stuff. I was extremely pleased with the episode.
So, guys, if you want to hear about how Buff got into wrestling, who you know, who out of wrestling helped Buff get signed, Buff shooting his dad. There's a lot of stories on that episode that we won't cover here, guys, because you should go and buy it or rent it or watch it if you get the channel. But some stuff I didn't know, and I'm a fan of Buff's myself, so I learned a lot from it. Also, while we're talking about it, Buff's got a new podcast out. Buff, you want to talk
Yes.
about it?
Yeah, it's a Buff and Stuff, and we're real excited about it. We're just getting it off the ground, and it's just check it out, man. We're on Twitch, and it's just an inside scoop, huh?
And YouTube, because that's where I watch it.
Yeah, Twitch and
so
YouTube.
You're live on Twitch, though, I think. So you're
Yes.
actually they do a live stream on Twitch, but then they record it and they put it on YouTube. I think you guys have 2 episodes out.
Yes, 2
Okay.
episodes, and we do them on Sunday nights at 6 o'clock. We're not doing it this week, but next week we're going to be live at this wrestling show in Atlanta. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So check out next week, 6 o'clock, Buff and Stuff every Sunday.
Yeah, guys,
on
let me
Twitch.
tell you, I listen to just about every wrestling podcast there is. I mean, you know, I could sit here and go by the list, but Buff and Stuff is becoming one of my favorites very quickly. The first 2 episodes were great, so I'm really looking forward to seeing more and more and more. So check it out.
Thank you.
I'll have a link in the description, guys, to the YouTube page if you want to check it out. So let's talk about something other than wrestling real quick. In fact, when I met you, I know you don't remember, but I mean, if you had to guess how many fucking autographs you've signed in your life, what would the number be if you just had the blind?
Oh wow, I've never been asked that one, man. I mean, oh my God, dude, I wouldn't even know where to start.
It would have to be in the 6 digits, though. I mean, you think
I would think so, man. I mean, I can tell you this: I've never turned an autograph down in my life.
And that's why we're sitting here, because you, like, I'll say this, man. You said Kevin's your friend, and you know, look, man,
he's rough. He's rough, brother.
Yeah, I've been on TV 5 years, and like, you know, when you're on TV, you're a normal dude, and people see me out in public, and like sometimes you're just having a bad fucking day,
Right.
And I always try to keep that in mind when I'm meeting people I look up to. But the day I met you, you and Kevin were at the same table, and man, Nash from Diesel,
Daylight and Dark.
yeah, it's like he was like one of my idols when he was Diesel, and then when he jumped to WCW and the NWO shit started, I was like, whoa. So I was really excited that you guys were both there together. And I met him first, and he wasn't dark. He was just not a man of many words, a little cold. It just wasn't quite the experience I was hoping for. But then going from him to you, it was like, okay. But
this is how it's supposed to be.
Right. So, but I will say, you also, and I'm sure you've been told this a million times, like just the phone conversation you and I had the other day, in 2 minutes in, like I felt like I had known you forever. You just are a very easy to talk to guy. You know, and you are who you are. I mean, I will say that you talk, sound, look, everything just like what you see on TV, which is always a nice thing because, like, what is the expression of like, don't meet your heroes because
Right.
you can be really disappointed, but you're everything I'd hoped for and thought. So I appreciate that for you.
Hey, that means a lot to me, man. It makes me also think about when you said that, like, nobody really talks about this. I'm kind of glad they don't, I guess. But just think about the person that you met on the phone, the person you're talking to now. How did I possibly piss off a company from my house to be main event one week and fired in my hometown the next?
So that
That's hard to do.
well, you know what? Let's just jump to that because it's been covered to death about your WWF run, so I don't want to get into all that. What I want to know is after they fired you, because we just talked about.
Wait a minute, hold on. We gotta get it straight though. After they released me.
Okay. After they released you, and I've watched Jim Ross has a podcast, guys. And he's covered this whole incident in detail.
Buff he thought he had a higher opinion of his work than Vince did, but if he had a better attitude at that young age and at that point in time, we're talking over 20 years ago. He had had a shot to get playing time.
So we've gotten Buff's side and Jim Ross's side, but first of all, did you have a relationship at all with Vince?
I met him twice. Talked to him on the phone a couple of times. Well, something that nobody ever covers that never gets talked about because it's irrelevant, really. But Vince courted me on the phone, and I flew up to meet him and Shane McMahon. And Vince couldn't. I think what really happened during this is he flew me up to meet me because he wanted me to come to WWF. And
this was after they bought WCW?
No, this is before, so I was still something. I was something special because I was working this was probably 99. And,
okay, so you're at the top of your game. Like,
I'm rolling, bro. I am rolling, and Vince McMahon calls me. And the only mistake I probably made in my whole career, I still don't really count it a mistake because it wouldn't have been what Mark Bagwell does. But when I signed the contract I signed for WCW, the last contract I signed was a 3-year deal. Ironically, that 3-year deal ended within a month of Vince McMahon buying our company.
So you didn't get paid to sit at home like a lot of the guys did.
Right. I had to make a decision ASAP.
Yeah.
And so I remember, and it was within a month because I gave Vince my month check, which is about 60 grand. I gave him 60 grand and said, I'm part of the team. That's after. So before he buys the company, they fly me up, and his normal courting was he flew you and your wife up first class. They pick you up. They come to you go to his house. You have dinner. You talk about your contract, and they fly you home. That is a normal, what I heard from Lugers and Macho Mans and Nasty Boys that's a normal courting by Vince McMahon. Now it's happening to me. Me and my wife are getting flown up first class. We're going to meet, go to have dinner at his house. When we land, Vince isn't there. Shane meets me at the hotel, conference room, and we talk about coming to his company then. But Vince wasn't there. It was just me and Shane. He had some kind of emergency come up, and we just flew right back home. Ooh. Nice conversation with Shane. How you doing? We're in and out. Looking back on that, I think what happened, I think he was in the mix of getting ready to buy us.
He
didn't need to court me. So,
well, yeah, I mean, because he knew that once he bought them, he would have a lot of leverage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, so you were making about $720,000 a year your last 3 years. That was your contract?
Yes.
Wow, incredible, man.
Yeah. So, and then with Vince, I signed a 175 was what I signed, and I gave him my last check, which was 60. So I said, hey Vince, because at that time, again, I had heat on me, whether it was true, not true. The rumor was Buff is hard to deal with, and he's got a bad attitude. So I went to Vince and I said, hey, buddy, I'm in. I'm 31 years old. I want to be your next main guy, buddy. Take my 60 grand. I'm signing the 175. Thank you.
So
2 weeks later, I was fired.
What was the 60 grand for though?
I gave it. That was my. I could have sat at home and made 60 more.
Ah, okay. So you were trying to show like a gesture of goodwill, like, hey,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want free money. I'm gonna work for it.
I always want to get the money out of the way. That was the one thing I saw that I could have got some of the heat off of me. And I said, look, screw the 60. I want to go to work right now. And I'm your boy. I'm in WWF all the way. And I'm yours. And I signed the 175 knowing that in a couple of years, with a chance, I'm going to be making $1 million, hopefully. And I'm only 31 years old. So I had all the hopes in the world, looking good, main event out of the gate, and the rest is history.
Yeah, so here's what I don't get. And I'm sure, I mean, like I people have covered this, but I want to go a little bit more into detail here. So like I remember I watched it live, the last episode of Nitro, and when they did what did they call it? The simultaneous casting, the dual casting, whatever it was. He mentioned your name to the crowd. Like Buff Bagwell, yay or nay.
Right.
He had previously attempted to court you before he thought about buying the company. He mentioned you when he bought the company. He immediately brought you on. You slap some dude, they release you. Did over like the next couple of years, did you ever like give them a call and be like, hey, like I'll do anything to get back in? Like, I mean, how hard did you work at ever trying to go back?
A lot of people, Conrad Thompson and Eric took this. And Conrad was the first guy to actually say, what possibly could a Buff Bagwell have done to end a career that he had coming toward him? Right. He was the first person to say it that I heard. And it was probably 10 years later. It was probably 2000. It was probably 2010, 2012 when I heard that. And when I did, I called him and I said, hey, I want to go on your podcast. I want to talk about it. Because he was the first one to actually defend and see through all of the bullshit lies of it was a bad match. Yeah. Bullshit. His mother called. Bullshit. Just all the bullshit was over. And he said it. And I was like, that was a good thing. So, and I remember Eric Bischoff saying to Conrad, he goes, I don't think Bagwell tried very hard. And when I look back on it, maybe I didn't, but I remember like calling Johnny Ace and feeling like an idiot, like me going, Johnny, brother, they told me that no matter what kind of press, good press or bad press, as long as you're getting talked about, that's a good thing. I said, why is that a bad thing when it happens to me? Right. And we laughed about it and cut up about it. And I remember I would make that call every 2 or 3 months, it seemed, but it just fell on deaf ears, man. And there's nothing you can do about it. So my family thought I should have flown up there and just gone into his office. And I just didn't know Vince like that. Maybe I didn't try hard enough, but I felt like in my heart and soul sitting right here, I felt like 24 years ago, I felt like Mark Bagwell did everything he could to go back.
Do you feel like it was a little bit of pride and ego back then where like you were kind of like, fuck them, I'll just go make money on the indies? I mean, did you?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, sir. I love money, and I knew that was my way to go. I mean, I ain't gonna say I would suck something by no means, but buddy, I was hungry and I was very vulnerable. Which can segue right into our next thing we're going to talk about, probably.
Yeah.
But I was hungry, man. I literally and physically. I mean, figuratively, I was hungry, man. And
so if Vince McMahon had called you and was like, I want to defecate on your head, like this rumor that's going around, like for a 3-year deal, you would have considered it.
I may be in that lawsuit.
Hey, brother, I'm right there.
I can remember seeing the episode when those people were kissing his ass.
Yeah.
I
Nah,
didn't
dude,
right
everything's
there,
got a
buddy.
price. I hate people that got like,
I
you
would have
know,
climbed right up. Hey, I'm your man. Right here, brother.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. Like, and you know, I mean, I know too, like this business, entertainment in general, I don't know anything about the wrestling business, but the
You
TV
know,
business,
entertainment business.
right, and it's fucking hard, and you know, I tell people all the time, man, like you gotta do what you gotta do, like, you know, because there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of dirty motherfuckers always trying to take your spot.
There
And
is.
you're really kind of on your own, you know. So yeah, man. All right. I'm glad to hear that in a way, because I really thought you were gonna say, well, yeah, you know, I mean, I was fine
No,
doing
man.
things.
I knew. And the one thing I had going for me a little bit was I had top stars like Luger and Sting telling me that Vince McMahon doesn't just say your name. He goes, if he said your name, brother, he goes, you're. And I could, of course, I went like, yeah, I'm good. I was like, I don't know, man. I was scared to death, nervous. Even that day that when all the stuff happened, when I slapped Helms and he knocked me out with a hammer, I mean, with an ice bottle. He, you know, even that day, you know, I remember when that first happened. I told Johnny Ace and Fit Finley that I fell because all the dudes are looking at me and their eyes are saying, Bagwell, please don't bring this heat on us. Act like something else happened. That's at least what I saw.
Yeah.
So when Johnny Ace and Finley came running up to me with me profusely bleeding, I said, I fell.
Yeah.
And Johnny Ace goes, you fell? I go, man, I was coming down the steps and I fell. And so I leave. Mark Jindrak holds a towel on my head and helps me pack my bag. If we could have pictures of that Marriott room where I got my bag ready that day for Mark Jindrak to take me to the airport,
Like a fucking murder scene.
It looked like a chainsaw murder scene.
Ooh.
I mean, when your head's bleeding, you're trying to pack. There's blood everywhere, all over my shit, on my own clothes, everywhere. And Jindrak's trying to help me, you know, I'm trying to catch a plane to get right home. There's a doctor waiting on me. So I've lied to the WWF to keep heat off of all of us.
Right.
And then I fly home, pay for my own doctor, didn't try to ask them to pay for it, nothing like that. I get back from all of that, and the first person I see is Shane Helms and the Hardy Boys. And I go, hey, Shane, and he don't speak to me.
Mm.
And I went, fuck that. Straight to Johnny Ace. I go, I got to tell you the truth. Here's what happened. And then he got us all together, made us all apologize, and we all shook hands, sorry, and all that. And then main event, Booker T.
And then you and Helms after that over the years, any more heat or just kind of?
I've got no more heat. I've got a picture with Shane Helms, me posing, and Shane Helms with a bat behind me as a joke.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool. All right.
I've got the picture somewhere in the house here. And it's a joke. It's we just laughed about it, cut up about it. Zero heat. But supposedly he was mad at me over the dark side for some reason. To me, I mean, I slapped him. He hit me back. I don't know how that story gets misconstrued. There's nothing bad or good about it. It's what happened. But supposedly he was real upset that I told the story.
So you were released in what year was that?
June of 2001.
Okay, 2001. So since 2001, have you done any work for WWF? Have you been in any video games? Have they ever called you about coming back for a Royal Rumble? Have they ever touched base with you about anything? Zero. Man, you got that. Something's not right about this.
Zero.
I just don't get it.
When you figure it out, please call me and tell me what it is.
I mean,
but sure. You realize not only is it not true, they convince people that it was because of my match. Now, if we're hiring and firing over bad matches, we're gonna have a real busy day Monday night.
Yeah, yeah.
Brother, you just don't hire and fire over it. Keep in mind, look at all the things you could talk about. First time ever in a 20-foot ring on live TV.
I was just about to say the ring size is different. Yeah.
Hey, and let me tell you a story that you may have heard, but it's not told much. when me and Booker got to the back, we could feel it. It was by no means a barn burner or anything. It just, there was no mistakes in it, like missing a duck and bad punches. There was nothing mechanically wrong with the match. So to me, it didn't, in other words, it didn't look bad. It just wasn't a great match.
Right.
But what nobody talks about is Johnny Ace, as me and Booker started to argue about the match a little bit in the back. What Johnny Ace says, he goes, wait a minute, guys, there's something y'all need to know. Pat Patterson thought that I was doing y'all's match for the finish, and I thought Pat was doing it. He goes, so nobody talked to y'all on what to do, and it's our fault. Again, that story don't get out there.
Right.
But that is what happened. Supposedly, and again, that didn't make the match bad, but I think they could have helped us get the right gear they were looking for. Me and Booker went out and gave them a WCW match, and it wasn't what they wanted.
Right. But then, like, obviously, I mean, Booker went on to be like a star with them. So, I mean, if he was involved in a bad match and that was the reason they gave you, it doesn't make sense at all. I mean, because it didn't affect him.
Yeah, and the people bought the mother phone call thing. I mean, they actually got people to believe that. I'm like,
I believed it until about 4 years ago.
Well, like I said, even in the podcast I would do, I switched it to go, forget saying she didn't do it. Let's say she did and she lied to me.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Who gets fired over their mother calling? Who does that? But they believed it. They put it out and people believed it. So it was great for them. It worked. And that's great. It just, for them, it made me look like an idiot,
So I guess since they bought WCW, did they own the name Buff Bagwell, or is that your shit?
I'm not sure how I weasel out with that one, but I own Buff Bagwell.
Wow.
I had to sue them to get my top hat back.
Really?
It was not a lawsuit, but it was some kind of I had to pay my lawyer to get my top hat back from them. Back then they had a thing where you could keep certain stuff on the road, in the travel box. And I kept one of my top hats on the road, so I'd have to travel with it. And so when I got released, I wanted my hat back, and they wouldn't mail it back to me. So I had to pay for a lawyer to get my top hat back from me.
I mean, I just can't believe, like, in 22, 23 years, they, never thought about bringing you in. They had Jake back after all the shit that he went through.
Think about it.
And we could go down a list of others that, they always said Vince never, closed the door on any wrestler. No matter how bad as shit people did, if it was, if there was money in or good for business, he would have people back. And again, what you're saying, just even if at the time they were like, he's being a little difficult, let's just say that were true.
Sure.
It still just seems like
the proof should be in the pudding. Give me a try. That matter of fact, now you say that, I do remember I talked to Johnny Ace once, and I said, look, brother, I go, this is the last best sales pitch I had. I wanted to do a gimmick where I had like a fat suit on, and the WWE came to my house, knock on the door, and I have a huge fat suit on, eating Doritos, drinking beer. And they do videos of me. They want to hire me back on the video. And they do videos of me jumping rope and, tripping and jogging, fat and out of shape, sweating everywhere. And, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a 4-week package, and then it comes showtime and it's, buff and shredded, and I was back.
Yeah.
And it got nowhere.
Oh man, I think that could have been huge. I just feel like they missed out on so many good matches. They didn't have there was never another wrestler that I think matched kind of your style, your personality. That was what I always liked about you. You had a lot of guys that were just big musclehead dudes, but I can't really think of another wrestler I would put in the same category as you. You're very polarizing as well, so it's like there was money in you.
Yes.
Me
and The Rock were destined to do something, and we never did anything.
Yeah, that would have been huge money.
It would have been really good. Stone Cold, too. I mean, me and Stunning Steve were really good friends. I love Steve Austin. He was one of the few guys that really knew the real Mark. He didn't know the Buff rumors. Steve Austin knew Mark Bagwell, and he loved, to my knowledge, he loved Mark Bagwell, and I love Steve Austin. And we had a lot of great matches with him and the Hollywood Blondes, and many singles matches with Steve. I loved him, and he was great. So to me, I mean, dead ahead for your Steve Austins and Rocks, and instead I got nothing.
Let me ask you a couple.
Well, let me say this first, though, to get it out there. I want to make it clear that I love the WWF. I love the WWE. I love Triple H. I've only met him a couple of times, but I have obviously done something that I don't even know what I've done. But whatever it is, I want to be clarified that I worship Vince McMahon, Shane. I love their program. I would give anything to be part of the WWF or the WWE. I mean, it just makes my skin all chill bumpy goosebumps because they are the main people. When we were beating them as WCW with the ratings, we knew that was very rare, and we knew it was impossible, but we were doing it and it felt good. But we knew inside something was wrong because we were beating Vince, and we were having to high five Eric, and then like behind his back go, no, that ain't good. It ain't good. We're doing this.
Right.
This can't be good that we're putting somebody out of business, but we're on the private jet with the balls of WCW. We gotta high five him, but really we just knew that there had to be at least two companies. We knew that. So just let it be said again that I would give anything to be under the umbrella of World Wrestling Entertainment. And I don't know why I haven't. It rips my lungs out. It started me on a 20-year addiction that I paid for. But it's something I would give anything to be able to be under that umbrella again.
I mean, how much, like, honestly, I can imagine going from being a top guy and you're on top of the world, right? And then you go to work for them, you get fired. Like that depression that set in, do you like attribute a main part of your addiction to being released from the WWE?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. How I explain it is, I was already probably an addict, but I had a leash on me.
Right.
And that leash was World Championship Wrestling. And it was a good leash. It was a leash that made you go to the gym, made you stay sober to look good and stay in shape and get your bills paid. And all of a sudden, that was gone. And depression sets in too. I was extremely depressed. If you lose your job tomorrow, the world don't know it. I lost my job and the world knew it, bro. It's embarrassing. It's a really awkward, difficult position to be in. Not to mention financially, bro. I mean, everything I worked for was gone. My house sold, my car sold, my motorcycle's gone, and I had to rebuild everything. So it just was a devastating thing that it took me 20 years to. I mean, like I said, I wasn't, I didn't lose 20 years. I was just heavily sedated for 20.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So like when you started making good money, what was like some of the first luxurious purchases that you made? I mean, I guess it's different because you came from, I remember seeing that like your dad bought you a Corvette when you were 15. I would have hated your ass too because you were good looking, you had a nice car, you had money. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the kids
I
hated
get
you
it.
in high school.
I understand why I was hated. But
Yeah.
I swear to God, if I had a nickel, without exaggeration, if I had a dollar for every time somebody looked at me and said, man, you know what? You're actually a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Because they see all these things and they want to hate me. But
Right.
they meet me and they go, man, you're super cool, man. You're a nice kid.
You're a Southern dude, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was, mine was my house. I built a $1 million house.
In Georgia?
Yeah, in Woodstock, Georgia. And so that was my big thing. And then I had the two big things I did was a house and a car. I bought a $100,000 Jag and I built my house. And after I did those two things, I said, okay, now it's time to settle down and start saving money. And Vince bought us.
Oh shit. Okay. What are you into now? Like, are you a gun guy at all?
I love guns. My father had 400 rifles and probably 50 pistols growing up. And I watched him sell those for years to keep the bills paid up. And God, when he went broke, it was awful to see. But I don't really have a thing, man. I was a Harley guy for a long time, and I sold my last Harley just because I couldn't afford it anymore. I mean, it was paid for, but I needed the money for something along the way. And I had hurt my knee, and it just was time to kind of grow up from that. So the Harley thing was my thing for a long time. But now, man, I've just been doing the sober thing. I think just being sober and taking everything in, and the biggest thing in my life is my partner, Stacy Brown. She's my girlfriend, and, she has 10 grandbabies and 3 daughters, and that takes up a lot of my life too. And so I'm just doing the sober thing. I don't really have a thing. My thing is just being healthy and trying to get back. I'm trying to get back in the ring again. I had a knee replacement done, and then now I had this foot surgery done. All of that, both those things was done to me 4 years ago. And so I'm getting those fixed. And in about 9 months, I'll either be back in the ring or I'll be able to say to the camera, I'll never be back in the ring again.
Okay. So we have that to look forward to then. I hope you get to do it, man. That'd be really nice to see.
Absolutely.
Just though, so part of my audience are gun guys because I make custom guns. Like, what do you have a custom carry gun? Like a favorite gun? What kind of guns do you like?
Hey, Stacy, bring my pistol. I've had this for a while. I used to have a dream. My big gun was a 45 automatic, a Colt, stainless steel 45
I'm a Colt
automatic.
guy. Yeah, that's what I specialize in is Colt 45s. Yeah, 1911.
That's my favorite gun of all time. But listen to this: in my mid 20s, in my mid 20s, I started having nightmares about my clip sticking, about the gun getting jammed. And I don't know why, but it really bothered me, bro. So my dad had a really cool 357 that was stainless with black Pagmeyers. And so I said, I'll trade you for it. I didn't care. So I've had this gun for a long time. And this is what I carry.
Is that Smith & Wesson?
Smith & Wesson 357.
Nice.
With Pags.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm a big fan of revolvers too. Yeah.
Yeah, so the revolvers turned in, and I didn't think I'd ever be a revolver guy, but I just love automatics, bow, 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 and put one in it and one in the chamber and all that talk. I love it, but I don't know, the dreams kept overwhelming me. So I even had one dream where I squeezed the thing and the bang came out. With the little rolly thing, like cartoons.
It's a strange dream in a way. Like, I wonder what,
every dream I'll be getting closed in on and my gun wouldn't work. And I swear to God, when I made the trade with my father, I never had the dream again.
Oh, that's crazy.
I swear to God.
Now, let me ask you, the gun that you shot your father with, was that a 1911 45?
No, it was a third. Now, again, if you hear the story, I went up to get my gun after I ran out of bullets with his, but I couldn't even have told you what gun it was because I was blacked out. But it was a 38 Smith & Wesson, it was a blue coat, blue coated, with brown grips on it. It was my dad's personal handgun, but I had no idea which gun. So I passed the refrigerator. When I went past the refrigerator, because I was in a blacked out state, and so when I got to the gun and came back outside, like 10 years later, I'm going through my dad's drawers and I saw the gun and the bullets were still in it.
Wow.
And I've never even told
the shells. Yeah.
The shells,
yeah.
The empty slugs were in the gun. And I took it and put it right back where it was because I was there for a reason. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, man, that's a crazy story. So, like I said, guys, if you haven't heard the whole story, check it out on Buff's Vice Dark Side of the Ring. Available. I know it's on Amazon and some other apps, guys. Really fucking interesting story that you would just never guess. Looking at Buff being a pretty boy, shredded, looks like a fucking Playgirl model. But yeah, he is not afraid to bust caps when need be.
That's it.
Okay, so speaking of that, all right, so you're a shredded, good-looking, famous dude. WWE releases you, and you end up on a reality TV show, which is right up my fucking alley because that's all I do.
I've had one job my entire life, and that was pro wrestling. So when you go from A to B with that kind of background, it's really hard. But I love women to death, and always have. And this is the first time I've seen a chance to segue from wrestling, and I'm all over it.
So tell me, obviously, about Gigolos. So that was on Cinemax or Showtime?
Showtime.